Welcome to HP Tuner's Ford Gen 2 Coyote Training Part 37. This training module we're going to be exploring the diagnostic programming, also some miscellaneous programming that we haven't covered yet, and other training modules. Without further wait, let's jump in so we can check this out.
Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at working with some miscellaneous programming details that we haven't covered yet in our other training modules in our training course here. We're also going to take a look at some of our diagnostic section programming that's going to be relevant that you may or may not have to get into for your different applications for Gen 2 Coyote Mustangs. Now what I want to do here to begin our tutorial is to open up a sample calibration file so that you can follow along with editing certain areas of the calibration file for these miscellaneous details. Let's go up here to File Open, and I'm going to move into our sample library here, so the Mustang example subfolder found in our course packet provided with the training course. We're going to be working in the 2017 Mustang calibration file folder. I'm going to go ahead and open up a automatic specific file. So there's both the manual transmission and an automatic file. The automatic file is something that I want to go and specifically look at here in this tutorial. There's a little bit more programming that we need to go and account for, or potentially might need to change for an automatic transmission vehicle compared to a manual. So there'll be less to worry about with a manual, but in the automatic here, I'm going to go ahead and select this specific file. Let's go to Open and allow the calibration file to open up. So we're going to first move into our diagnostic area right here, and we're going to talk about programming a couple different things, and then we're going to move through into the system and into speedo, and then there's a couple other little details I want to cover here in our engine section. Specifically, if you have a turbocharger, a turbo kit, and you have a single turbo and you have one oxygen sensor that's being used, there's a way that we can actually work with just a single oxygen sensor. I wanted to go and bring that up here in this tutorial because I'm sure there are going to be questions that someone's going to have a single turbo kit on a S550 Mustang, and what do you do when you only have one oxygen sensor? So we're going to cover that here as well. Let's jump in here into our engine diag section, and we're going to go here to General. And within this window here, we have a whole bunch of different details that we might need to program and might need to work with. We actually don't need to touch anything in here in terms of programming. Everything should be left alone. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to our next window here under Airflow. Now under Airflow here, we have our high fail 80 counts. This is for our mass airflow sensors. So there's a low fail 80 count and a high fail 80 count. Now this is leftover programming language from earlier generation Fords when they had an analog to digital count. Things like our throttle position sensor, for example, when we're talking about an S197 Mustang, so the Gen 1 Coyotes, those still ran and referenced 80 counts for the throttle position sensor. The Gen 2 Mustangs here were referencing 0 to 100% scale, something that makes sense. But this programming language is left over from earlier generations. Now, specifically talking about the mass airflow sensor, this is talking about the range of the sensor in terms of its reading. So we know we have our period reading from the sensor that looks up a specific amount of airflow that would be coming into our engine in that mass airflow curve. This is able to be extended out here to 1,024 as the maximum value. We're going to go ahead and set this to 1,023. Now the reason why we're raising this up is so that we can extend the usable range of the mass airflow. Now in naturally aspirated applications, this is most likely not going to be a problem or an issue, but if you get into a force induction application, you're starting to stretch the limit of what the mass airflow sensor can actually register and read depending on your mass airflow housing size. This may become an issue and it might trip a high failed state and put the vehicle into a math failed state, and essentially because you're hitting the upper limit of that math reading. So I like to go ahead and set this to 1,023. That gives us more usable range of the mass airflow sensor. Now also, if we go under here under our mass airflow sensor fail RPM, we want to raise this up and match this to whatever we're revving our engine out. So if we're going out to 7,400 or 7,600 RPM in terms of our rev limiter, what we're setting our rev limiter at, we want to go and set our fail RPM to that same upper threshold. So in this case, I've set my rev limiter, I plan on setting my rev limiter to 7,400. So I'm going to go ahead and match this fail math option right here to 7,400. So moving on here into our next area, we have our manifold absolute pressure sensor and throttle inlet pressure sensor. These are some things we can change related to our map pressure plausibility checks, rationality checks in this case, and a P106, which is another code that can be thrown in relation to the map pressure sensor. Now we do have an inferred map pressure. We don't actually have a map pressure sensor fitted to the engine. I don't touch any of our area here, and I don't touch anything with our throttle inlet pressure sensor. We leave all those values in the stock orientation. Let's jump in here to our misfire monitor tab. In here, we might consider changing some of our misfire monitors. So if you have a built engine that has aftermarket pistons or aftermarket cams, that can set off the misfire monitors and create some problems for you. So in this case, we want to make sure we're going in here and changing our minimum and background RPM min and max so that it's going to...
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.